Podcast. This is Cherry, or the Khajiit Cook. This isn't my first attempt trying the first episode. I did record it previously, but it was a very butchered session, and the audio was absolutely awful because I was stupid and I didn't turn off the game audio. And I was thinking, I need something in the background, and it would be easier for me to record it live and to stream it. So if anybody wants to make any comments or whatever, I can comment on it and it'll flow naturally. As of now, we do not have a second co-host. We do have a guest that is going to be coming for the second episode. This is the first episode, and I have written a generalized script. I kind of wanted to be a little bit natural with it, so I didn't fully write down a script. I kind of just jotted out a bunch of ideas, and I wanted to do kind of like a semi-scripted video. Like, if you have been a fan of my old YouTube channel before this one, I used to do a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of content, and it was a lot of fun, and I did kind of like podcast-esque videos where I would just kind of talk about cards and archetypes, and I'd predict what future support for that theoretical thing could be. And today I was kind of wanting to think about like what would happen to ESO in 2021. As you guys know, we do have expansions in this game, and with each new expansion they add some sort of new mechanic, class, a new zone, or whatever. And I kind of jotted out like a bunch of predictions, my wants, my wishes, just things that I want in ESO. But before we kind of discuss that, I kind of want to discuss what the past expansions were like and what my experiences were with them. I didn't experience all of them. I kind of got into ESO around elsewhere, so I'm not the most knowledgeable. I did play for a tiny bit when Somerset first came out, but my PC broke after like a month of playing, so I didn't really play ESO that much. Now here I am, a PS4 player, which I do miss keyboard. Don't at me on that, but I do miss the keyboard. But I love the PS4 server, and honestly, there is such a wonderful, vibrant community on every platform. The guilds are all different. No matter which server you're going on, there's just different people, and I have friends on different ESO communities. Like ESO Twitter is just absolutely gorgeous. I have my own little Twitter there. Don't be afraid to like give a like to everything and follow on with social media if you ever want to know when a new podcast is coming out. But today, I kind of am going off subject, which happens, but the first expansion, if I remember correctly, was Morrowind, which I was not there when it first came out, but I do know it added Vardenfell, which I played it. It also added Clockwork City later on in the year, so that added a lot of variety. Clockwork City was a very wonderful DLC. I loved like the robots, and I loved the technically they're apostles or whatever. And I kind of loved that sort of nuanced worlds where it was kind of like Hunger Games-ish. I don't remember the word, which is like a really bad thing, but it's like a utopia kind of thing where, like, I don't know. It was a very unique experience, like seeing all of the like robotic mice and pets, and everything is trying to be built for perfection, but in reality, it isn't perfect, and it's not as black and white and everything, which I thought was a really nice aesthetic. And then well, I don't have much to say about Vardenfell because I played Morrowind as well, and I got what I was expecting out of ESO with Vardenfell. And I know Clockwork City was in Morrowind as well, but I absolutely love the interpretation on both of them on this game. Honestly, a lot of the content in the game they really nailed it with Vardenfell, and Clockwork City. I think Clockwork City is stronger for me because I love the robots and stuff, and I love that utopia aesthetic, but they're both very wonderful. And then when Somerset came out, is when I got really interested because I really love the High Elves and the Khajiit and a whole bunch of stuff. So I got into it, and just, oh my god, that quest line, I fell in love with it. Just Azura being like the big bad villain. I felt like the quest line was one of the most fleshed out quest lines. The one thing that I had a problem with it is Razumdar did not show up enough. And I have read the journal. Like, if you guys did not know, there is an official journal that you get with the collector's edition of Somerset that kind of explains what Razumdar is somewhat doing during the time frame. And I just wish we saw him more in the quest line. Razumdar is like my favorite character in the game. So is Queen Ayrenn, which I understand why they didn't have Queen Ayrenn in Somerset, because hella, it would be hella expensive to pay for her again. She's such a great voice, like an actress. Like, I ended up looking up, I forgot what her name was, but she's like a really famous celebrity who plays Queen Ayrenn. And she's got a lot of accolades behind her belt. So to see her in ESO was like a very pleasant surprise. I would sip for her, and I'm gay. Queen Ayrenn is just amazing. And then the one that I am more like, I have the most recent memory of besides Greymore was Elsewhere. So after my PC broke, I kind of got a PS4 like later on, and I eventually I was in a very bad moment of my life, and I needed like that escape from life, you know. And I decided to buy ESO, and I absolutely just fell in love with the game. I made friends, and it was just a very wonderful experience. A lot of just fun memories. Like, if you go onto the YouTube channel and you look up like some of my earlier broadcasts, that was kind of from that sort of time frame when I got into ESO, and I was just so happy. I had a lot of people that I just met, and it was just so wonderful. And okay, I not to put my emotional spin on Elsewhere, but Elsewhere was just, it did have some flaws. I didn't think the main quest line was the best. Somerset had a way better main quest line, and the side quests were so good. I really love. Oh my god, I'm going back on a tangent about Somerset, but I really loved that quest where they had like the trans woman, and you're kind of doing a mystery where you're trying to find this girl's brother, and it turns out the brother transitioned or whatever, and I thought it was such a cool plot twist. And there was multiple ways you could kind of do that quest, which I wish a lot of quests kind of would do that in ESO. Like, that quest was so absolutely just well fleshed out, and it was like some very good representation, which I don't know if representation is a vindicativity of quality, but it was a really good quest. There was just so many quests in Somerset. Oh, another quest that I liked in Somerset was that girl who was trying to follow some sort of path and try to become a god or whatever. I loved that quest too. Don't remember a lot of details on that one. And I love just seeing Razumdar and Somerset, which I should be talking about Elsewhere. Elsewhere had some really good side quests. Like, one of my favorite ones was the quest where the Khajiit guy had like a bunch of little horses, you know. And if I remember correctly, one of them ran off, and you have to save the horse or the pet or whatever from a cinch that's about to eat it. And you could either intimidate the guy, if I remember correctly, or whatever. And I thought that quest was really wonderful. And the cream of the crop quest line, for me in that zone, honestly, was the Razumdar quest where you meet his family and everything. I thought it was kind of funny, seeing he had a lot of family issues and whatnot, and it was just hilarious. And then I kind of stopped playing ESO for a little while. If you didn't notice, like there was a time frame between when I originally played when ESO came out, and then I took a huge break. And I think when I took that huge break, I got really into Pokemon. Don't at me. I'm not 100% remembering correctly. But did Sword and Shield come out during that time frame? I remember I was just competitively playing that, which that's not Elder Scrolls, so I'm not gonna go on a tangent about Pokemon. But I took a break, and then I came back to like the Dragon Guard DLC, and oh my god, that was as good as Somerset for me and the Aldmeri Dominion. Like those are my three favorite quest lines in the game. It was just Somerset, the Aldmeri Dominion, and the Dragon Guard. Like the Dragon Guard was so fleshed out. It felt like you were in a guild, but you were starting the guild up from nothing, and you made a bunch of friends on the way, and you ganged up together to stop one big badass force. Like there was a lot of weight to the quest, and honestly, I thought its weight was more. Well, it just was a side DLC. I thought it had more weight than Elsewhere had, and a lot of a lot of the characters were very fleshed out. Like I really loved Zaji. He was like in Casca, I think. They were really nice. Just like the alcoholic, like ex kind of pirate sailor guy turning into a warrior and having like his own little character arc. Like you don't expect that kind of stuff from an MMO, but it was absolutely wonderful. And then seeing his mom, who is just like a regular cat, I don't know how that works. I do know that they are technically Khajiit, but I don't know how that little cat could give birth to something 3 times her size. It makes no sense to me, and it was funny. Um, and then seeing like him having like some kind of mommy issues. That's how I'm gonna quote it, and it was funny. And finding out who voice acted him was another thing. I am like a huge fan of Agretzko, Beastars, and a bunch of anime. And it's Ben Discon that's playing Zaji. He is in a lot of English dubs for anime, and he's in a lot of video games and whatnot. And to find out that he is in Elder Scrolls as one of my favorite characters in this game was a really cool pleasure. Like I just love everything he plays pretty much. Like they always like I feel like he always gets roles that just fit him. And oh my god, Zaji was just amazing. I later found out that he played an Argonian and Murkmire for the Daily Writs, and it wasn't anywhere near of an important character as Zaji was to the Dragon Guard DLC. But that DLC just really, really inspired me to play this game. At that point, I think I was like CP 340, and now if you look at my character, I am now CP 807. I'm almost max CP. Oh, I think I'm CP 400 or whatever, and I'm like, damn, I have spent a lot of money on housing and whatnot, and this game just always finds a way to get me into the game. Either spending money or playing it. I would say it's more of an addiction than it is fun for me at this point. I have fun with it, but it's an addiction. Like, there's just always something for me to do in ESO. Like, either do my crafting writs, or doing the new trial, or whatever. Or just doing all the zone quests, which I have. Like, if you can look, I've done every fucking zone. Except every trial. I need to do every trial in normal and vet. There's a couple that I've done in vet and normal. And I love trials and everything, but I came to this game looking for an Elder Scrolls game, which I know this is an MMO, so it's really dumb fun, but I love the quests and everything in the worlds. And I came to this game being an Elder Scrolls fan, and honestly, this game is probably my #1 favorite, which is blasphemy but honestly, I think it's better than a lot of the games in the series. I think this, Morrowind, and Daggerfall are my favorites, just like some very weird ones. Like, I would say Skyrim is up there, and then Oblivion. I just like all of the Elder Scrolls games for different reasons. I thought Oblivion had some really whimsical, wacky quests that I really loved, which is kind of what I'm going for my predictions for 2021. And I kind of want to start off my predictions by giving you a hint on my first prediction. So I'm gonna put this outfit on, and I'm gonna go on the stage right here, and I'm gonna do a little dance. And as you know, with every other expansion, they add a class. Oh wait, I totally forgot about Greymore. I love Greymore. I didn't think it was too good. That's my final tea on it. I liked it, but then I didn't like it. Like there was some quests I loved, and honestly, Kind's Aegis is one of my favorite trials in the game. And I loved the ship mechanic. Like I loved that, and I tried to grind that trial and vet for a while. Oh my god, that trial was fun. Like the ship mechanics and everything. Oh my god, it was a very unique experience. My favorite trial, though, has to be Miles Lorcage as well. Greymore just had a lot of positive things to it, but then it also had a lot of negatives. I thought the storyline was just, it wasn't cliche. It was very good early on. Like, the first 4 or 5 quests, I really was engrossed in the story, and I thought it was unique. And at the very beginning, I predicted the bad guy. Because there was like, it was so obvious who the bad guy was, which I don't want to spoil it. Granted, just doing the first quest will tell you who the bad guy is, to be honest. Um, yeah. And then the twist second bad guy wasn't really a twist because he wasn't even established in the story. Like, I don't think there was any notes about him really at all, or anything. I thought the whole quest line could have used some more work, which I feel like they're gonna do that with Markarth, because I know with Southern Elsewhere it was 1,000 times better than Northern Elsewhere when they first released that. So when Markarth comes out, I'm expecting it to be a phenomenal DLC. Honestly, I've always fell in love with the second one that they always release instead of the main one, because I feel like when they released the main one, they're working some issues out. Like with Elsewhere, the dragons did not spawn anywhere near the way shrine, so whenever you did get to the dragon, they were either nobody wanted to go over there, or the dragon was already dead and a bunch of people killed it. You were too slow to get to the dragon. And Southern Elsewhere fixed that, where you could get to the dragon because the way shrine was right where the dragon was, and they were at a good distance. Like, they fixed a lot of problems with the second DLC. And honestly, you learn. Like, the game developers are even learning, so it's a wonderful thing. So, since I am throwing hints, if you guys have not guessed yet, my first prediction is the class is going to be a Bard class, which I know it's a very fan-requested want right now. And honestly, I am for that tea. Some people, or the naysayers, don't want to think it's going to happen because, what the hell, it's a bard. How the fuck are they going to tank? Like, how does a bard taunt? How do they heal? How do they do anything? Like, how does somebody use an instrument to do damage? Well, sister, I'm going to tell you. But before I tell you, I want to say that it is not illogical. It's not a weird class for ESO. Like, if you guys did not know, like with the original Elder Scrolls games, Arena and Daggerfall, like, at least Arena, it was based off of a bunch of the original Bethesda guys' D&D campaign. Like, a lot of characters who are in the lore and whatever are from their D&D campaign. And Elder Scrolls had like a huge focus on like that old paper and pen kind of RPG sort of experience with dice rolls and whatnot. And that's what Elder Scrolls was for a time frame, and I absolutely loved it. But I don't think there should be dice rolls for weapons and whatnot. That's something that I didn't like about the older games. It wasn't bad, but I just don't prefer it. I prefer more of the action-oriented combat. I do miss the more quests that the old Elder Scrolls games had. But if you guys did not know, bards are a class in Dungeons and Dragons, and ESO is based off of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, not ESO, but Elder Scrolls originally was based off of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, a lot of their lore is based off of Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of the characters were based off of their campaign and whatever. So why can't we have a bard class in this game? Like, bards can do combat in Dungeons and Dragons. So why can't they do it in this game? And I know the big argument is tanks. Like, how are they going to tank? And honestly, I wrote down some ideas that I had. For one, I was thinking they could kind of have 3 skill lines. They could have some drums and loud instruments. They could have singing and dancing as their second skill line. And then they could have wine bottles, really stupid Molotov kind of stuff, and destroying weapons, like just whacking people with like musical instruments for the third one, which, if you can't tell, the last one is the damage. So for the first one, the drums and loud instruments would be kind of used to taunt. Like, it would annoy the enemy, so they would come over to you and kind of whack you. Like, you'd play a drum, like your character would hold a drum for one of their skills, and it would go poof, and then like a bunch of enemies would start walking over to you. And then like some drums, you could have another skill where you play a drum rhythmically and it buffs your teammates. And then you could have another drum skill that debuffs your enemies, or whatever. Or you could have like a whole bunch of stuff, like you could have some wind chimes or whatever, I don't know. And then for the singing and dancing and that kind of skill line, there could be songs that heal your teammates. Like, I know that sounds really dumb, but music is supposed to be very healing, and singing is a very healing and calm kind of thing. Maybe a kalimba kind of based instrument, if I know, because it's very peaceful, and it could maybe heal and add some buffs or whatever. So a tank and a healer is very plausible. And for the damage, oh, you have a guitar or a lute. Technically, it'd be a lute. You just whack the enemy with a lute for the skill line, where they play the wrong note for another skill, and it just irritates their ears, and it does a bunch of damage. Like, heck, they could even add a new kind of damage called sound damage or whatever to the game, which is like a really dumb idea, but honestly, I would be for it. And there could be like a bunch of passives where they could be like a very group focused class. Like, I don't think they'd be very good in solo play. Like, they could do solo play, but I think they should have some passives that give them buffs when they're in a group or whatever. Like, another class that people are wanting, which I wouldn't mind, like, if they added this as well, I wouldn't be upset, is a brawler class where you're using your fists and punching and kicking and whatever. I would totally hella be like that, because in Skyrim I always played a Khajiit who used his fists, and I wore heavy armor and whatnot, so I wouldn't be upset if they did that. I just don't know how they would do that. I imagine maybe a werewolf. I don't know. They could. I don't know how they could do that with that one. I just don't. If you have ideas for that class, please write down some ideas. I do not have the ideas, but there are some ideas that people do theoretically have. And now that I kind of gave my idea for the class, I just want a bard. The more I talk about it, the more I want it. And I'm just like, yes, sis, give me a bard class. Like, if any of the ZeniMax people are watching this, Probably not when it's live, but when I post it on social media or whatever. Give me Holler. Give me the Bard. There's so much you could do with it. And it'd be like a whimsical, wacky class. That'd be fun. Like, I could totally see it being a fan favorite. Since we got the class out of the closet, like my so-called sexuality, where the hell is this DLC going to be taking place? So I kind of want to start off by looking at the map. We theoretically we have Skyrim left. We have this location, which is definitely not going to happen because it's uninhabited during this time frame. We have the Talavani Isles, the Talavani Magistracy, whatever it was called, and the rest of Black Marsh, Cyrodiil, and Hammerfell. I don't see Hammerfell being a thing because they're going to be wanting to release Elder Scrolls 6, which will be in Hammerfell. I feel like it wouldn't be right away. I feel like they're going to do a tie-in with that. At least that's my opinion. Like, it might be Hammerfell, but I don't see it being Hammerfell. And then another Skyrim DLC, like, that's too early. And then Black Marsh, I just think they're like an alien creature, and I know they said that, oh, we technically could have an Elsewhere one, Central Elsewhere. I want that, but it's not happening. It's too early. It's been a year and a half. And we already have a Morrowind DLC. Where the hell is the Cyrodiil one? That is my thought. And I have multiple reasons besides the location. Black Marsh, like, would be my second option. I think it'd either be Black Marsh or Cyrodiil. I just don't want them to do Black Marsh because Black Marsh is supposed to be a very mysterious place. The only way I would let them do that is if you can meet a Lomathet, which is an extinct kind of fox race that they're not necessarily extinct. People just don't know where they are. Like, we just don't know anything about them, really. And apparently they lived in Black Marsh, so just give us, like, one of the last Lomathet. Like, I would love that in Black Marsh, like in the DLC for that, if they are going to do an expansion. And for Cyrodiil, I have multiple reasons for it. There's a lot of evidence to suggest it in data mines, which I'm not going to explain. I will give hints on what's in the data mine, but I won't say explicitly because I don't want to give spoilers to people who don't want to be spoiled on unannounced or unreleased content. But there's some damning evidence for Cyrodiil. There's some really damning evidence. And I have two predictions. It's either going to be in the Nibene area, or it's going to be in the Westfield area, which is right here. Nibene would be kind of like this general area. It wouldn't be too big. And then I have a prediction for the second one, like a second part. Like, you know how there's Clockwork City for Vardenfell. Elsewhere got Southern Elsewhere. Raymore got Markarth. Well, to start with the DLC, this is now when it starts to get to less prediction territory, and this is more what I would want. And some of these are predictions, and some of them are just, hey, these would be some cute and cool ideas. But before I kind of describe anything, I kind of need to describe some of the damning evidence. First of all, we have a new crown crate that is in the game that is going to be released. And some of that stuff in the crown crate and the name itself is just giving me Cyrodiil vibes. And I don't want to say exactly why. You just have to look at the data mine if you want to. But there's some Cyrodiil vibes. And then there is also, in the newest player test server update, there was another data mine that had a character that is infamous for Elder Scrolls Oblivion that was just added to the game. ZeniMax is teasing us, and they know what the hell they're doing. They know what they're doing. You're not adding that character without me saying anything. I'm not saying who the character is, but if you've seen the data mine, look into it. And my final reason is it's almost the 15th anniversary of Oblivion. Like, it'd be stupid not to market towards the nostalgia for that masterpiece. Granted, a wacky potato masterpiece, but I love that masterpiece. They need to make some jokes about Oblivion. They need to keep that meme nature of what made Oblivion lovable in the new expansion. They can't have it be super serious. Like, it can be serious, but it needs to be whimsical and it needs to be just wacky and creative. That's what Oblivion did really good, and that's what I would want them to do with that. I loved Cyrodiil that they have, like, at least the zone that we have now. But honestly, it felt really bland. Like, there wasn't any side quests. If they're gonna do Cyrodiil as the next year expansion, they might as well add some extra quests to this world. Just add a bunch of them. So Cyrodiil seems more fleshed out. Oh, well, Dominion, you're doing pretty good. You usually suck. I love you, Dominion. You're on right for the queen. But honestly, just Cyrodiil and the 15th anniversary. Just it's the timing. Just the timing is the tea. If they throw us with the Black Marsh one, I would be fine with that. I'd be shocked. I'd be just as excited. Um, and since my prediction is kind of like, at least my prediction that I have is going to be in the Westfield, which is Skingrad, which is kind of like the bougie side of Cyrodiil, like the rich side, the nice side with the vineyards, the farms. It's kind of got a royal-esque aesthetic, and everybody is kind of cultured, if you know what I'm trying to say. The wildlife is kind of plains-ish with a little bit of forests, and it have some berries, some bears, deers, mountain lions, rats and spriggans. It's kind of like Somerset, but not really. It doesn't have the colorful trees and whatnot, but it's got the vineyards. And I honestly liked that. I loved that part of Somerset. It was very pretty seeing the vineyards. I hope they give us a farmhouse, to be honest. I do have more to say about housing, but I honestly would like to own my own vineyard kind of thing. Or like a farmhouse, you know? Like, that would be a fun idea. I kind of just came up with that. I didn't have that on my notes, but that's actually a really cute idea. Um, and it looks like all my notes were on the topic of housing. So, the two houses that I thought were notorious areas in Skingrad were Rosethorn Mansion, and this is one that people aren't probably going to be thinking about. But what about Summit Mist Manor from the Whodunit quest? Like, if you haven't played Oblivion, there's like this really, probably one of the best quests in the game, at least to me, is it's a Dark Brotherhood quest where there's just a bunch of choices, and you are sneaking into a dinner party, and a murder mystery kind of happens. But the twist is you're the murderer, and everyone is trying to find out who the murderer is when you're the one that's doing it. And you slowly get to decide who you want to kill in whatever order. So just having that house, like, that house was so beautiful. There were so many rooms and whatnot. So the game would be absolutely wonderful, and I would totally adore it. And throw like give us a throwback in the house, like, or something, like to get the house or something. I don't know. You'd have to spend money probably, but give us like when you get the house, you get a note from the Dark Brotherhood or something or whatever. I don't know. Just give us a throwback or whatever for Oblivion. It's not a throwback. It's a throw in the future because this is the second era and that's the third era. But anywho, I really want that to be a house in this game. Another thing that I am totally wanting is the main quest line to be more fleshed out. We need to be honest with ourselves. Greymoor wasn't bad, but it was bleh. They need more time in the oven to make a quest line. And I think there's plenty of things they could do to spice it up. And since this is in Cyrodiil where the Alliance War is kind of going on, I was thinking, why can't there be a quest line that brings old Alliance War characters back? For example, Queen Ayrenn, Razum Dar, etc. And determining what faction you're in, different people pop up in your quest line. That's like a really fleshed out kind of thing, and it makes the kind of character you have change the story. And I don't think it'd be that hard. Like, you could have the same quests, but when you're doing that quest, there's gonna be a different person there, and all you gotta do is change the dialogue a lot to fit the specific character or whatever. Like, they could be more complex with that and have there be different quests for the main quest line or whatever, but they could just make them the same quests, but instead Queen Ayrenn is following you or whatever. I doubt Queen Ayrenn would follow you, but Razum Dar probably would. Um, and just give us a more fleshed out storyline. And I think people would really love nostalgia of old characters from Elder Scrolls Online that they fell in love with recurring in this zone. Like, some people want to see Razum Dar again, or some people want to see these characters again. And I don't think they really have a reason to put them in again. They might, but this is like a perfect reason to bring back some old characters because there is a war going on. And some of them are in those factions in the war, and they have to be doing something during the war. They have to do some fighting or spying or whatever they're doing to progress their war efforts. And just having that be part of the quest line would be unique. Like, I don't think it should be the main part of the quest line, but I think it could be a big part of the quest line is having those recurring characters going through some sort of crisis in that area, which I'm going to say Daedra, because of Oblivion and the Oblivion Crisis, and because of a leak. I don't want to say why. Recurring characters and whatnot in the data mine with the new model or whatever. I'm not going to say what. I'm going to keep my lips zipped, but I saw it. I saw it on the ESO model viewer website, and oh my god, I'm just excited. I'm really excited. And speaking of recurring characters, I want them to add a courier guild to ESO, because their couriers are a very big prevalence in Oblivion. Why don't we bring them back to this game and give us a quest line where it's kind of like scrying, and it gives you a reason to go to old zones that you've been into, and you kind of give notes to past characters that you've seen in the game. And you can kind of get a backstory for that character, or once you bring the note to them, they have you do something for them, and then you get to see that person one last time or one more time, which would be fun. And I absolutely love that idea. Or like a merchant's guild where you're like, since it's like Imperial City, they're all about money and everything. Like a merchant's guild where you help alliances buy stuff and sell stuff and whatever. Like, I know they have guild traders or whatever, but it would be a good way for people to make money in the game that don't do guild traders for solo players. Because I know solo players are a huge percentage of the fan base, and they would absolutely love more ways to make money. And they could flesh out so many characters doing that. Like, imagine you're doing a quest for a courier and having you go all the way to Khenarthi's Roost, and then, oh shoot, you realize the person that you have to give the note for is Razum Dar or whatever, and he might be doing something at that time frame, and he's like, hey, can you help me? Thanks for giving me that note, or whatever. And then, if the person liked your job, you go back to the courier guild, and then they pay you. And you also get that experience, and you get that character growth with the character, and you get to have that moment that's special to you. And I honestly think, though, if they are going to give specific characters, I think they should make it so you have to do these previous quests first. So you can't just rush the courier guild. You got to grind stuff up, and then you can do the courier guild. So the courier guild feels like you're doing it in the right order. Because I think they Like, it'd just be a quest line, it wouldn't be a zone. You would still be able to do it, but you wouldn't be able to talk to some of the major characters in the guilds unless if you kind of did that stuff. It gives more of a representation. And heck, the Courier Guild might even give you some house guests or whatever from, like, recurring characters or whatever. Like, not a lot of them because they don't want to make money in the Crown Store, which is something that I'm going to talk about today, a little bit later on. But just a courier kind of thing would be fun. Another thing that I'm kind of wanting is like a Nern Root collector. In Skin Grat, if I remember correctly, in Oblivion, there was a Nern Root guy who was like really wacky and whatnot. I want a wacky guy that's like his ancestor or whatever from 1,000 years in the past. And you can kind of see that they have like a family addiction to Nern Roots. And this guy is trying to find some endangered Nernroot species that don't exist later on in the timeline or whatever. I'm just making up shit right now. But once you, like, this would be the collectible quest. Like, if you played Oblivion, there was a quest line. I'm not Oblivion, in Greymoor, there was a quest line where you got all the musical instruments for the Bard's College, which was a nice throwback. Like, the Nernroot would be a nice throwback, and honestly, I'm kind of upset that we do not have a Nernroot quest in this game. Because we need one. We hella need one. And if there is one and I forgot about it, I'm sorry, sister, but whatever. I want it. I want this. And another thing they could do is, once you do all of the collectibles, like, maybe you could get the Rosethorn Mansion or whatever. Give us a house, give us something nice and rewarding for all that grinding and looking for the Nern Roots. Because in every other Elder Scrolls games, you absolutely got jack crap from the Nern Root quest. So I feel like they need to reward you for that Nern Root quest. Give us something nice. Like, maybe we can get the wacky Nern Root guy in our house or whatever. And he's like an alchemist or whatever, and he lives in your house and he does alchemy or whatever, and you can give him pathing. And he says like a bunch of wacky stuff about Nern Roots. Like, that would be a fun kind of thing. And that would be nice. And just give me something like that. And then for like another quest that I kind of came up with is, if you play Orsinium, there is a quest with the girl who is a chef. And you got a bunch of like recipes by doing her quests. You progressively got better and better recipes for doing her quest line. And at the end, it was really nice. Like, I feel like we need more quest lines for cooks and everything. I roleplay as a cook, so I like having that. Granted, I'm a colorful cook, but who cares? And honestly, I'm thinking this lady should be a smug AF high elf woman. Since this is supposed to be kind of the bougie side of Cyrodiil, I'm thinking we should have her be a wine taster. She likes the wines, the cheese, the tomatoes. She likes recipes on that. And you slowly get her foods. Like, you go into dungeons. She'll tell you to go to this dungeon and find this recipe thing. Give it to me so I can try this old alien wine or whatever, since there's a lot of alien ruins in Cyrodiil or whatever. And she tries it, and she's like super like smug and everything, and then afterwards you get the recipe. And then after you do a bunch of her quests and you get all the recipes, the final thing you get would be a new personality called the Wine Taster personality, which I thought this was a really cute idea. But it makes you look sassy, like your head is up in the air, and you have like a smug, pompous expression where your lips are pouting, and then you're holding a wine glass whenever you're walking. And then, you kind of do a catwalk, you know, or something. Like, that'd be fun. Like, I'm just thinking of South Park right now with Randy drinking red wine. Totally unrelated, but I honestly want that to be added to ESO, and I think that'd be a wonderful addition. And now I'm going to the really stupid ideas, but I'm wanting a blessing and religion system to be added to ESO. I want to be able to pray to Mara or pray to Meridia. Daedra, Adra, I don't care. That is my business. You got your business, and I got my business. And it kind of work like the Mundus stones in the game, and it'd be an extra thing you can add to your character. I'm thinking you could add a title to your character, so like, you know how when you finish Dragonstar Arena or a vet trial or whatever, you get a title that you can add to your character. Like, follower of Meridia, or Meridia guides you, or whatever you add to your character. My character is a big Meridia supporter and Mara supporter. Like, my character is kind of like, at least this is my canon for my character. But my character is all about multiple gods or whatever. I don't know. But the religion system, at least for me, I think it could be unique from the Mundus stones by adding a skill line to your character. I don't think it should be the most fleshed out skill line because there's multiple gods in the Elder Scrolls universe, and I think it'd be hard to balance everything if they have like really big skill lines. But add one passive and one skill that you can use in combat. Like, let me kind of show you. So if we go to our skills, we have the animal companions, we have passives, we have only one, and then we have one regular that we could use for a rotation. Some of them could, like, some of the gods that you could have under your religion belt, it could give you, like, a healing skill or a tank skill, or, like, Cursing could give you a skill that really helps out werewolves or whatever. Speaking of werewolves, this is totally unrelated to everything I'm talking about, but we need a polymorph for the behemoth. I don't want the behemoth to be added because he's so fucking busted in that dungeon and everything. But just give us a polymorph or something because people are wanting that, sis. Give it to us. Just something. Just the religion system is kind of fun. I know people are going to be like, oh, that's stupid. Like, why would you want to have a religion in a video game or whatever? But it's a video game. It's a role-playing game. This gives you more options for your character. Like, people are excited about Cyberpunk because you can choose pretty much everything for your character and whatnot. So why can't we choose your character's religion? Or absence of religion or whatever. And maybe give a buff for having no religion. I don't know. And then for, oh, that was an accident. I was playing with the battery. But, the 12-man trial. This isn't the most fleshed out because I really didn't know what to do for Skingrad. Besides, we could do the Knights of the Nine kind of themed trial, but I think that'd be a better arena. But I don't think they've done an arena instead of a trial for the base expansion. And I'm kind of thinking we could do either the Knights of the Nine for an arena, which I haven't really thought of because I didn't think that's going to happen. But I'm thinking we're going to get Miss Karkand as our first Alien kind of themed trial. If there's an Alien themed trial and I forgot about it, I'm sorry. But sis, I'm telling you my ideas right now. And that area is kind of filled with ghosts and whatever. So what if, like, in the quest line there's like some vindictive spirit that is possessing a bunch of people and whatever who are going in there, and you're with like a bunch of explorers, and it's kind of got like this spooky, campy kind of feel to it, since Cyrodiil is kind of wacky. Like, give it some scary movie vibes. Like, make it funny. Like, make it a funny trail. I don't think we've gotten one like that. Just give us some wacky glob monster that's kind of like Slimer from Ghostbusters or whatever. Like, give us the wacky trial. That's what Oblivion did really good, is wackiness. So give us something wacky for this. I don't want it to be hardcore, oh my god, there's a Daedra, oh, there's a demon, and whatever. That wasn't the best part about Oblivion, and anyone who's played that game knew that. Like, nobody really did the Oblivion gates. Like, some people loved them, but they were bland and generic, and what really Oblivion did good at was the wacky quests and the wackiness and the wacky characters and the wacky look, and it had that kind of charm, and I hope they really show it in this game. And I'm thinking, why don't we get like a spooky ghost skin, like kind of like, ooh, kind of like a Ghostbusters kind of looking one or something, or like a slime one, kind of like Slimer or whatever. I'm wanting something campy, silly. I want a silly dungeon with a silly storyline that doesn't take itself too serious. Just just something simple for the trial, but I want it to be hard. Like campy, but it's hard. Do you know what I'm saying? For more of the casual kind of stuff, since I know a lot of people don't do trials, we're going to talk about the antiquities. A ghostly specter house guest, or like some sort of dead body. I don't know why. Why I came up with that. Like, I don't know who's going to be a grave digger in ESO, but somebody is going to want that house guest. And there's so many housing options. Like, imagine you go up to the door and, ooh, a spooky ghost just walks through the door. Or it's flying or whatever, and it's going, ooh. And it could be like an alien elf or whatever. Or the wild elves, because they are kind of, like, not there that much. And just because it'd be cool, you know. Like, I want someone to make a legit haunted house or whatever, or something campy. And honestly, having a campy, spooky ghost is something I'm all about, sister. And I felt like Skyrim was, like, Greymoor was very serious. So next year we need something kind of wacky and not so serious and lighthearted and less grim. Something more colorful and playful for the expansion. I would totally vibe for it. I'm sorry about the guild chats, by the way. I totally forgot they were on, but who cares? And for some of like the antiquities as well, I'm thinking Wokenstone, Farless Stones, bird people stuff. Ooh, what if we got an undead bird person? Like, if you guys did not know, bird people lived in Cyrodiil back in the day. Long time ago, even before the second era. What if we got an undead bird person ghost or whatever? Like, kind of as like the Cadwell thing, but it brings over a spirit or whatever. That'd be a really cool thing to dig up, and I bet people would want that in their house, where you can talk to an undead bird person. Like, it could just be a spectral blue ball, and he could kind of describe what he was in the past, and not say much. Like, just don't tell us everything about the creature or whatever. We don't need to see it, but we could hear it, you know, or something. Or like a bird person school or whatever. And I think that was a nod that they kind of hinted at in Greymoor, as the person who talked about a Cyrodiil bird person school or whatever. I forgot their name. But the game's just hinting at Cyrodiil. I want a bird person school. I feel like that's something that we're going to be able to dig up. And then for the second half of the DLC, or like the end, I didn't write down much for it, but we're getting a return for Shivering Isle. At least half of it. Either Mania, oh fudge, why did I forget the name? I should have wrote it down. Or Dementia. Have it like dark or very colorful, crazy. Just bring the crazy people back. Like 2021 is, we had a very stressful year 2020, so next year we need a wacky adventure. We need something more colorful, less depressing, just a nice distraction. And since my prediction is going to be data related, I think Sheogorath could fit really well for the second half, because I know that they are doing stuff related to that. And I think that they could do a trial in the Shivering Isles, in that dungeon where you torture a bunch of people and kind of either make them go crazy or mad. Like, what if there was a trial that had choices where you could go to a different side or whatever? Where you could go to one side or you could go onto the other side. And you had a different experience entirely by going into a different side. And then they could do like a +1, +2 kind of thing. If you went into, you could have, I don't know. You guys could think more. But there's like so much unique fauna to the Shivering Isles. There's dark forests, there's bogs, there's a bunch of unique plant life, which that could be an overhaul for the alchemy system. Because I know a lot of people don't use poisons in PvE, and we can maybe get some nice poisons that are really good for specific builds. Because honestly, I don't think poisons are that good, sister. I know they're good in PvP, but PvE, we need them. And we could use a split of servers for PvP and PvE, but yeah, that's another thing for another day. There's just a bunch of unique races. I could see them doing like a zombie kind of dog thing again. Like, oh my god, there's just so much stuff they could do. Or like they could reference Jiggalag or whatever, like do some more books about Jiggalag. I don't think Jiggalag would pop up because of the timeline. There's just so much they could do. I'm kind of like reading about Shivering Isles, and that I'd be more excited about Shivering Isles than Cyrodiil. Shivering Isles was my favorite part of Cyrodiil and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. And I hope this podcast thing was entertaining. This was a new experience for me, or at least for a while. I did record this earlier, and it was just a flop. The audio quality was terrible, and I didn't speak up. So this time, I am on the go, and I am ready to flow. Now I want to know what you guys are watching from 2021 and everything, and I hope you guys enjoyed this live podcast. I might put this on other platforms besides YouTube, get the audio file and everything. I think YouTube's going to be the definitive experience, but I kind of want people to have some fun, and discuss Elder Scrolls. And I might not only talk about ESO, I might talk about all kinds of Elder Scrolls games. All I know is this is going to be a podcast related to Elder Scrolls. So suddenly I might be talking about Skyrim or whatever, or like Elder Scrolls 6 or whatnot. But for now, this is going to be about ESO. If you guys want me to expand it to the Elder Scrolls universe, I can definitely do that. I could talk about whatever. Just give me topic ideas. I'm down with that. I do have a guest star for next episode that said and agreed to it. So I might have 3 people in the next podcast. I might have 3. I just want to say stuff, but I don't want to tell you who yet. You guys will see. I hope you guys all have a splendid afternoon. This was a nice conversation. And have a good night, sisters.